this is something that people forget quite often, is just because you own a company, it doesn't mean that you do what you like with the company, okay? The company is a separate legal entity. And the reason why I say this is, what happens quite often is people tend to take money from a company as and when they choose and please. And when you try and tell them you can't do that, what's the common answer they give you? It's my company, I can do what I like. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. If you're a sole trader, a partnership, or an LLP, you can. Limited company, you can't. Because when you take money out of a company, what is it treated as, generally speaking?
Dividend.
Or dividend, or salary, or allowances, or
Comes through director's current account.
benefit, or
Loan.
a loan, which is a bad idea. Begins with B. People get paid that every year, especially bankers. Bonus. Yeah. So it could be a salary, dividend, bonus, distribution, or a benefit, or a loan. So let's cover the loan now. If you loan money to your company, do you have to charge interest?
No, you can.
Don't have to. You can, but you don't have to. Should you charge interest?
Yes.
Okay. Why, Sunil? Now that you've answered the question.
Because I think it's going to increase the, well, no, thinking about it, because I'm just going to create a more of a personal income
Yeah.
rather than in the company.
Yeah.
So that's the other way around.
And if you create more personal income, are you going to pay more tax? Is that good? I think is that a good idea or a bad idea? Okay.
I should be charging.
Hold that thought. So
I'll offer your defence on that.
Oh, would you?
go on then, Laura.
Well, it depends, because if you're putting in a personal loan to a company that has multiple shareholders,
Multiple shares.
Yeah,
that is more than one person, you're giving a benefit to that company of your cash.
that's right.
You should see some return on that cash because they're using it for their profits
Yes.
themselves. So,
But that's in a multiple situation.
yeah, we
Yeah.
are looking at it from a sole
So,
Yeah.
shareholder
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right, and you might be right. Okay. If you take money out of a company, which is what most people do, and it's not treated as a salary or a dividend, what are the consequences of that at some stage down the road, as in a few months later?
You can ask for it back.
It could do. Could do. Any tax consequences you can think of? So if you loan money from a company and don't pay interest, is that a benefit?
Yeah.
Okay. And if you have a benefit from a company, do you have to pay tax?
Yeah.
Okay. Benefit in kind. Yep,
Yeah.
you're right, Sunil. And if you don't pay benefit in kind tax, okay, then what else can you do? How can you avoid that?
Not having them.
By not having the benefit?
By making it a commercial transaction, you should have
No.
interest.
By not having a benefit, okay. How do you not have a benefit? So you borrow money from your company, 100 grand, okay, and if you don't pay the interest, you've got benefit in kind. So how do you avoid that? You pay the interest. Yeah, then you don't have a benefit. Most people don't pay the interest, okay, and then they create a benefit in kind, but they don't file a P11D. Then they have a big problem.
So how does that work? Because at the moment my husband's just putting like, I don't know, some money into the company every month, a small amount, and he's just letting it as a just to keep our
Yeah.
company account up.
Yeah.
But there's no written agreement.
That's different. When you loan money to a company, that's okay.
Yeah.
When you take money out of a company, that's when it becomes a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So say he does this for a year.
Yeah,
Say for argument's sake he's
100 grand.
yeah, just to make the maths easier. So he wants his 12 grand back, or say after 2 years he wants his 24 grand back plus say 1% interest. How does he just take that completely out of the company?
Yeah.
And then what, he has to file a PD?
No. So, well, let me finish the point about the company giving money to a director,
Yeah.
and then we'll cover your question. So if you borrow money from a company, and people used to do this quite often, by the way. So they'd pay no tax, no income tax. They'd keep borrowing money. Year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They now owe the company £1 million, and they paid zero tax. So the government had to stop that. So what they've done now is, if you borrow money, you have to pay interest. If you don't pay interest, you file a P11D, and therefore you still pay tax. The second part, which is more important, is if you owe the company money 9 months after the year end, you've got to pay 33.75% tax to HMRC. Okay, it's called a Section 455 penalty tax. Okay.
It was the other way around where you were asking about
If you borrowed money to the company.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, if you lend-
Sorry. So if you lend money to the company, you may charge interest.
yeah.
Okay.
Is there a time limit that director gives, say, £500,000? How long?
Yeah, we're going to cover that with Shamala's question.
Still on this note of borrowing money from the company.
Yes.
If it's another company borrowing.
That's fine.
That's
Fine.
That's fine. So
Yeah.
just do it as that's a commercial.
Company is fine.
Okay.
Company and individual becomes
So
problem
you can borrow money from your company, but you've got to basically pay it back within 9 months.
of the year end.
Okay, 9 months from the year end.
Yeah, after year end.
After year end.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't,
And pay interest.
and pay interest.
Okay.
But what you can't do is borrow money from your company, pay it within 9 months, then after 9 months, take it out again, borrow it again, give it back. Okay, that's called bed and breakfasting. Not allowed. You can do it as a one-off. Do it regularly. Problem. Okay.
Now they're around the interest rate.
Sorry.
The interest rate that you charge,
You
or is
decide.
it just a commercially?
That the company charges you, or that you charge the company.
Well, either way.
Two different things.
Okay.
So
So
with
as we do the one that we're talking about at the minute. But
okay, you're fine, Julie. So if you borrow money from the company, you can just use the Bank of England rate, but HMRC have something on their website. I think it's something like 3% or something like that, 3.5%, which doesn't matter too much because you're giving money to your own company. So whether it's 3% or 8%, apart from a cash flow challenge, it doesn't matter too much because you're not paying a bank or a third party. But I think it's 3.5%, 4%. How much you charge, I'm going to cover for you in a second when we come on to Shamala's question.
So just to clarify so my brain can catch up, if I took money out of my company, called it a loan, took £100,000 out of my company, called it a loan,
Yeah.
but I was regularly paying 3% interest or whatever,
Yes.
I can have that loan for as long as I want?
You can, but if your year end is March,
Yeah.
okay, and let's call it 31st of March 2022,
Yeah.
if you haven't repaid the loan 9 months after, by 31st of December 2022, you've got to pay 33.75% tax to HMRC, called Section 455 tax,
Okay.
and you can hold the money as much
So
as long.
basically the maximum you'll ever be able to have a loan without paying 33 point whatever tax would be 21 months.
That's right. Yeah. On day one of the start of the accounting year, 12
So
plus.
if you took it
You've
out
got it. You got it.
On 1st of April,
That's right. You've got 12 months plus 9.
12 months plus your 9.
Yeah, but you can't do that
And then
regularly.
It needs to be repaid,
Yeah.
or else
You pay.
pay your
You,
3%.
so you pay 33.75%. But the good news is this, by the way, if you then repay the loan, the 33.75% you pay to HMRC, you can get back in that year.
Right, okay.
Okay, so they hold on to the tax, but now you've repaid it, you get it back. So if you think about it, it's the same tax you would pay as a basic rate taxpayer as a high rate taxpayer on a dividend.
So it's actually better to take a loan from a bank that you're not going to get stung for 33% tax.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then use that person. Okay. Now we come to the flip side, Shamila. So now you've given money to the company. Okay. So if you draw down on those funds, you pay no tax.
Yeah.
Because it's repayment of a loan.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah. If you want to charge interest, you can do. That depends on your personal tax situation. You've got something called the personal savings allowance, the PSA. So if you are a basic rate taxpayer, the first £1,000 of savings income is tax free. For our purposes, generally speaking, for all of us in the room here, savings income usually means interest from a bank. Okay, generally. Okay, so the first £1,000 is tax free. So if your husband's a basic rate taxpayer, which he isn't, he gets £1,000 tax free. If you're a high rate taxpayer, you get £500 tax free, which means up to, if your income is less than 150 grand, you get £500 tax free. If you're an additional rate taxpayer, i.e. you earn more than 150 grand, no tax from personal savings allowance.
So you are going to be taxed on that interest.
Yeah.
Right.
But the bank, but your company sees that as a cost, so the company gets 19% tax relief on any interest it pays you.
So you should charge it then.
You should, especially if you're a basic rate taxpayer. I'm going to cover that for you in a second. I'll do an example for you.
Time limit when the direct loans.
No time limit.
No time limit.
You can leave the money in the company as long as you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if that company is a holding company, gives other funds to different companies,
That's fine.
that's fine.
No problem. Joanna, you had a question on this?
I'm just trying to process it. So in terms of lending money to a new company as an individual versus at a company, is the one that would be more beneficial? Is it still better for me to like loan a sum of, a lump sum to the new company as an individual, charge interest?
It depends on your circumstances. Okay, so depending on your income, first we have to agree what rate of interest we should charge our company. So how much
1%. Is that
a year?
yeah?
So Shamila says if she's loaned,
Is that a bad idea? Should I charge more?
we're going to come on to it. So Shamila has loaned £100,000 to her company and she wants to charge 1% interest. What do you think, Tahir?
It's a waste of time. Just don't charge it.
So how much should we charge?
Charge 3% of what. Depends what the cost of your.
Tahir says 3%. Julie?
Definitely more than one, but yeah, maybe 3 or 5.
5%. Okay. Laura?
Depends whether she's a higher or lower rate taxpayer.
It does. But for now, we need to figure, but that's a good observation.
Yeah, I mean, if she's a lower rate taxpayer with plenty of scope for
Yeah,
income.
which we're going to cover with an example. But for now, let's just say we don't know.
Okay.
I think
So do you want 1, 3, 5 or higher?
Or 0.
It could be 0, yeah. Could be 0 or 0. Julie? Sorry, Laura?
I'll be happy at 3 potentially.
Okay, you're here.
But yeah.
So now we've established that Tahir is a Lib Dem and Laura is working towards that because she wants to be right in the middle, okay?
No, you look at your current base rate, don't you?
Yeah.
look at risk.
Nehal, yes, you do the
I won't charge it.
Nothing? Caroline?
About 3%.
About 3%. So we've got 3 Lib Dems in the room now. 10, good. There you go. 3 Lib Dems and 1 Tory so far. Okay, we're making progress. I'm just messing around. So how much interest can we charge?
Whatever you like.
Whatever you like, says Tahir. Is he right?
18%.
Sorry?
Is it 18%? Or I mean, it's commercial, so maybe it doesn't matter.
Well, you can go.
So if well, you can just try. So if HMRC say, let's say you can charge, your company has charged you 4%. So if you take money from your company, you have to pay 4% interest. How much do you think they're going to say you can charge? 4%. So how do we justify a higher rate, Sunil?
Risk and reward, so I'm going to tell you it's 10%.
Okay.
I'd say, yeah,
So how do we justify that risk and reward?
because the person that like the company may be new or experienced,
Okay.
you take that all into account.
Yeah. Julie, sorry, Laura, any observations? How do we justify it?
No, I don't know.
Okay, fine. Okay, let's have a look. So,
Depends on where you've got the money from in the first place. You may be paying a higher interest rate to have that money sat there. You know, you may have refinanced
Possibly,
your own
possibly.
home. You may be paying
possibly,
6% on your own mortgage or whatever.
possibly, yeah. So, let's work it out very quickly. When you go to a bank to get a loan, what's one of the first things that they ask you for, which we've already covered? Okay, income. Alongside that, what else? Security. Alongside that, once you draw down on the loan, when you start making repayments. Okay, month 1. So monthly payments. And if your company goes bust, are they at the top of the list to get repaid or at the bottom? the top of the list. So we call them a preferential creditor, yeah? So now, Laura, you go to your bank and say, I'd like to borrow £100,000. I'm a really nice person. Okay, I've been with you for the last 18 years and I'm not going to give you any security, but I'm a really good person. You can ask my mum and my dad. Okay, they'll tell you I'm the best person on earth. I always pay my debts. I'm not going to pay you every single month, by the way, but I promise you I am going to pay you at some point during my lifetime. Okay, you can have that in writing. And if the company goes bust, which it never is going to go bust, you're not going to be a preferential creditor. What rate of interest are they going to charge you?
They're probably going to say no, but a very
If they're polite,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very high one.
So you've loaned money to your company, or your husband, Shamila, yeah? Has he taken any security?
No.
Is he going to get paid back monthly?
No.
And if the company goes bust, okay, do you think he's going to be at the top of the list?
No.
What rate of interest could he charge?
Higher.
Hybrid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah? So you could charge 10, 15, maybe even 18%, okay? And if they ask you for the justification, you say, here's the reasons why. Yeah? Because it's a high risk. Yeah? Okay? Now, should you charge interest or not? So, let me give you the basic example, because that's the best one. So you take a salary, 6,396, and you take that because you don't want to pay any national insurance contributions, okay? Obviously, there's benefits to paying national insurance contributions in terms of a state pension. I think you should do, but let's say you don't. So you're not going to pay that. Your personal allowance is how much every year?
12,570.
12,570. Thank you, Laura. So Laura, if you now do me a favor and work out the difference between this and this. Be easy if you do it on the calculator.
6,000, I think something.
Come on, Shamila.
6240.
6174.
6174, yeah? So let's just assume this person doesn't need much money, because this is the most effective example, and then we can work backwards like Laura said. So you got 6,396 as your salary. You're taking from your company every single month, which is 500 odd pounds. Okay, if you've got no other income, you would charge this much interest, yeah? So this is comes back to your example, Laura, which is you would work backwards, which is what you said, 6174. So you could stop there, and that's how much interest you charge. However, if you've got no other income coming in, you can charge another £1,000. Because remember, if you are a basic rate taxpayer, you get something called your personal savings allowance. You can have £1,000 worth of savings income. Okay, so we'll call this PSA. On top of that, you've got something called your starting rate saving allowance, which I think should be on here as well. Here, 5,000 here, starting rate savings. Okay, so you can earn another £5,000, called your starting rate saving. So that gives you 18,570
Before you pay any tax.
before you pay any tax. And if you've got a husband and wife situation, you can have 18,000 for yourself, 18,000 for your husband or your wife, which gives you best part of about 38,000 pounds, and you paid no tax whatsoever. However, this figure changes. This should really be on here, by the way. This should have been first. However, for every pound, and this is the important bit, for every pound you go over here with other income, this goes down by £1. So if this figure were, let's say you've got £1,000 income here from something else, and this becomes 13,570, this then becomes £4,000, yeah? So this is up to £5,000 on top of this, as long as this stays at 12,570 or less. If it goes over by £1, this goes up by £1. So when you get to 17,570 here, you get nothing over here. Is everybody with me? So let's say, Shamila, your husband wasn't working and he's got no income, and works for you in your business, you can add him to the payroll and pay him 6396, for example, and then let's say he's loaned money to your company, you can give him 5 plus 6 plus 6, let's call it 12 grand, £12,000 per year. You would then work backwards and say, okay, in order to get £12,000 worth of interest, if I've loaned 100 grand, what do I need to get to? Okay, in this case, to say 1% per month. Yeah, that makes sense. That's how you would do it. For most people, this isn't going to work, of course, because they probably need more income. So their figure is going to be less. Might be 2,000, 3,000, whatever figure. So, but make sure you use it. Yeah. On top of this, then, so we're on 8,570, by the way, Laura. Yeah. How much is the tax-free dividend? You get a tax-free dividend every year? 2,000. Okay. 2,570. Tax-free income so far, yeah? Tax-free. Can we increase that anyhow with any other allowance that you might know of? If not, I'll tell you in a second. Something to do with property. Renting out property.
Is it rental?
Could be. You could be. So yep. So if you're only getting £1,000 worth of income from property, that could work. You're right. Shamil, I think you're near the answer.
Is it the rental income that you could get for free for 7,500, but beyond that you have to pay tax?
Yep. So rent a room relief. So if you rent out a room in your property, in your house, you get up to £7,500 tax free every single year. So you could get that on top of this. Okay, 7.5 grand. By the way, you could run service accommodation from your own home. Okay, I get £7,500. Rent a room relief. So that gets you to 27,570 without paying a single penny in tax.
Question.
If you Laura, if it's a husband and wife situation, then you share this. If you own the property together, so he or she gets 3,750 and you get 3,750. Yeah, Laura.
It just popped into my brain. Do apologise. The rent a room relief. Can you utilise that if your adult child is renting and paying rent?
To you?
Yes.
Yes.
My daughter pays me rent.
That's fine. Yeah, as long as she has access to the bathroom, the kitchen, the living room, which she does. Yeah, that's fine. She pays you rent.
More than access to it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So the family relationship is not important?
No, that's fine.
So I can. Excellent. That's
Maybe
nice.
you
That's
have
good.
I mean, you can go back.
Yeah, so depending on how much income you need,
Paying rent for 2 years. So.
that's not bad. I mean, that wouldn't get you very far in London, for example, but in Peterborough, if you got 27,570 tax-free from this bit here, and then your husband or wife, let's say, gets an extra 22570, okay? That's best part of £48,000 tax-free. It's not bad going, is it? Yeah. Some parts of the country, I know it's not going to work for you, but other parts, it's not too bad, is it? So.
Are you moving on to the higher rate, or is that?
So for the higher rate, nothing applies.
Nothing applies.
All you get is £500.
So what? So there's no you don't.
There's no point being a higher taxpayer. No.
There's no point charging yourself interest on the loan, which is where we started.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Because you'll end up paying 40% tax on whatever comes in.
Yeah. That's so. You just want to. You can get £500 tax free. It isn't worth it because the additional hurdle you have to cross
to get the 500
is if a company pays you interest, you have to file the company has to file a CT61. A CT61, and then it has to withhold 20% tax from you, which you can get back if you're in this particular category at the end of the tax year when you file your tax return. So. And if you are charging interest, don't charge it every month or every quarter, because then you've got to file a quarterly CT61. Do it once a year, so you need to file one CT61. Okay?
So actually, this kind of setup is great if you decide to either, retire or just do property full time with your company and take out a
Yeah.
smaller amount. in
Yeah.
terms of- yeah.
And another benefit of having a limited company is you only pay tax on the income that you draw down as you draw down on it. If you're a sole trader, partnership, or an LLP, it doesn't matter if you don't take any money out personally. You pay all the tax on all the profit every single year. Yeah? So that's a big benefit of having a limited company. You control how much money you take out, when you take it out, therefore you to some extent control how much tax you pay personally. That doesn't apply to an LLP or a sole trader partnership. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, by the way, make sure you click like, subscribe and post a comment because that tells me that you're engaging and you're finding the content useful. And if you like this video, make sure you check out this video here because it's the next stage in terms of your learning and development.